Do you know a teen who is really rigid? They have a plan set in their head, and if things don't go their way, they lash out. Or does a teen in your life make a ton of promises about homework and chores, but you hardly see anything get finished without a ton of nagging and reminders? Or maybe you're thinking it would be nice to see the struggling student in your life even start a task. They have so much fear and anxiety that simply opening up the assignment to see what needs to be done feels like pulling teeth. These are all executive challenges, which can be seen so readily in teenagers. Their brains are developing as they find out more and more about who they are and who they want to become. While exciting, this time is also stressful for teenagers and the adults around them. Many challenges experienced between adults and teenagers are because of executive skill deficiencies, which, luckily for everyone, these skills can be built over time with patience and consistency. Hello everyone, I'm Jessica, your favorite academic coach. I work with anxious high school students to help them achieve their academic goals by teaching them the executive skills they need to manage their stress and reach their full academic potential. Subscribe to my channel if you want regular tips on how to support successful students. In my previous videos in this series, I explained what executive skills are, how they support learning, and how to assess students' overall executive functioning. If you want a copy of my checklist for identifying executive skills strengths and weaknesses, please click on the link in the description below, fill out the Google form, and I'll get the checklist to you as soon as possible. In a separate video, I provided definitions and strategies for strengthening response inhibition, working memory, and emotional control executive skills. Check out those videos if you haven't already. And a friendly reminder, before we dive in, teenagers do not want to be told what to do. Don't get in a power struggle. Instead, work towards buy-in. Teenagers want autonomy, so let's give it to them. Don't tell them what to do, but rather share with them what you're noticing in their behavior and thought patterns, why you think there's a problem, and that you know a way to help them. It's super important that you ask before giving advice because this is a consensual way to build a trusting foundation in your relationship with the teenager. They need to trust that you believe in them and their self-determination. If you have any questions about consent or want more guidance and support in communicating with teenagers, say something to me in the comments below, and I'd be happy to make a whole other video just about that. Alrighty, now that that's out of the way, here are some ideas for addressing deficits in flexibility, sustained attention, and task initiation. Let's start with flexibility. This skill area is very similar to emotional control, but there's a reason why it's its own executive skill area. Flexibility is defined by Dawson and Guare as the ability to adapt and revise plans when conditions change. These changes can be anything from obstacles and setbacks to newly available information or mistakes. You will know if the teen in your life struggles with flexibility if they seem to act childlike when there's a change in the plans. Almost like they revert to being a toddler and they'll snap at adults in their life with irritability and anger. Flexibility develops in infancy. We can all probably think of a baby who cries and yells when they have a need, which is responded to quickly by nearby adults. Many parents set their baby up on feeding and sleeping schedules. And then as the baby grows, they adapt to their family's needs and schedule. In time, they're introduced to many changes and adults start to expect the child to adapt and to adjust as necessary to new people, to new situations, and to new schedules. Most children eventually adjust to the new situation, but children with weak flexibility skills will take longer. When the child becomes a teenager, they will react with anger or accuse adults of being unfair when the teen doesn't get their way. Some teens become adamant and refuse to make requested changes. So how can we increase flexibility throughout a teen's day? Provide advance notice or a warning about what's coming next. The sooner the teen can learn about the change, the better. So that way they can prepare themselves and regulate themselves. As much as possible, maintain schedules and routine. Within those routines, however, try to incorporate some flexibility by giving the teen a window of time that something will be completed. For example, we will start making dinner between 5 and 5:30. Develop a script with your teen for handling an unfamiliar situation, like making a doctor's appointment for themselves or preparing questions to ask during a job interview. Work with your teen to help them anticipate what's going to happen in a situation. When they have more information, they will be able to better negotiate the new territory. Walking them through the new or anxiety-producing situation will help them feel supported and also prepared to take on the new challenge. Be clear and specific about non-negotiable rules, making sure you have their undivided attention and you've discussed the expectations before the event or activity. Teens often want things from the adults in their lives, so be sure to not get their hopes up. Responding with a maybe is actually going to be a yes to them. Be very explicit with your response. Many teens with flexibility challenges will approach their parent or teacher with a request, and although they might not have the explicit permission yet, in their mind, they've already committed to it. Be prepared to explain your no, and be specific about whether you mean no forever or just no for now. When the teen is calm, come up with strategies for handling situations where inflexibility causes the most problems. Help the teen problem solve how to regulate themselves when things go unexpectedly, and prep them with whatever tools they might need to self-soothe. All in all, consistency is the key for inflexible teens. This helps them be able to anticipate and to trust. The next executive skill we're going to look at is sustained attention. Sustained attention is the capacity to keep focusing on a situation or task in spite of distractions, fatigue, or boredom. This will look like paying attention in class, working homework all the way through, and completing chores. Students who have weak sustained attention skills are going to look like their brains are bouncing off the walls. They might start a number of tasks and not complete any of them. Other times they will look for distractions just so that they don't have to do the non-preferred task. As a child develops, we see sustained attention in novel and desirable tasks. But when it comes to undesirable tasks, adults will break the task down into small, easy steps. We reward the uninteresting task with stickers or other things. But by the time a child reaches adolescence, they are expected to spend hours on homework or attend a boring family gathering. These expectations are very different as a teenager than as a child, and it's important to teach them how to manage their disinterest. Negotiate solutions as much as possible. If the teen can identify what tasks are the hardest to focus on, then you can develop a plan for breaking it down. Find out how long they are willing to work on that undesirable task. You can see my video about the Pomodoro timer for advice on how to motivate oneself through even the most undesirable tasks. Be their on-task reminder system. So long as they are open to this, supervise their progress. Find out from your teen when they plan on studying, and about 20 minutes after they've started, check in on them. But again, make sure they're on board. Make the task interesting. I work with the Anti-Boring Learning Lab to find tools and strategies for helping students to study effectively. Studying is probably never going to be exciting, but it doesn't have to be boring either. Having multiple strategies that engage as many senses as possible will make the work even more interesting. Use incentive systems. These have to be agreed upon with the teenager, so work with them to come up with the best motivators. Using first, then plans are also a great tool for helping students to prioritize tasks. Always offer praise for staying on task and completing work. It can be really hard to remember, but the more we applaud the job well done, the more likely they are to stick with it. It's pretty easy for many teachers and parents to identify when task initiation might be a lagging skill. You might be imagining a classroom full of students chatting during work time instead of outlining the essay prompt that was distributed at the start of class. Or maybe you're thinking about the pile of dishes in the sink that the teenager has left behind. Task initiation is defined as the ability to begin projects or activities without procrastinating in an efficient or timely manner. This skill is especially hard to develop because teens often overestimate the time available to complete a non-preferred task, and they will also underestimate the time the task will take. Often, teenagers want to opt for the fun activity with their friends rather than the necessary project that will determine their final grade for the class. Task initiation usually develops around preschool age when we introduce them to chores. Many children learn a cleanup routine and songs to coincide with that work. This is also when they learn that activities have a start and a finish. Once they reach adolescence, they have a number of competing interests, from friends to social media to shows and to video games. These fun activities will invade their mind and make it hard to do the undesirable tasks that lead them towards their long-term goals. So, to teach task initiation, use these long-term goals as the motivator. Remind them that preparing for this math test will help them earn a good grade, which will bring up their GPA so that they're a more competitive candidate for their dream college. External incentives might be a good enough motivator when the task does not lead to a long-term goal. Just make sure the student is part of deciding these external incentives. Otherwise, it might not be a strong enough motivator. Also, don't be afraid to offer parts of the incentive along the way that can help keep them on task. When tasks are overwhelming, students are going to procrastinate. Help them by either sitting down to break the task into smaller steps or collaborate with an academic coach to provide the student with necessary skills and support for reaching their goals. Overall, you want the teen to decide on deadlines and the queuing systems that work best for them to trigger their task initiation. The more student buy-in, the more likely they will be successful. Remind them these are skills that they will need throughout their life, so finding ways to build the skills now will only benefit them in the long run. When a student is on a roll, keep the ball rolling. Sometimes getting over the initial hurdle of starting is the hardest part. Avoid starting and stopping as much as possible. There's no one-size-fits-all solution for enhancing executive skills, but there are some concrete communication styles that can support a teen's development. Today, we covered the definition, development, and tips for addressing flexibility, sustained attention, and task initiation executive skills. If this information was helpful for you, please like and subscribe to my channel. My next video will address planning and prioritizing, organization, and time management. All of these skills build off of one another, so find out how to create a supportive learning environment for the teenagers in your life. I'm looking forward to seeing you here again soon.